All right, everybody, we're back. Let's try this one more time and see if we can get this to work again. So, new live stream. I just wanted to touch in on the state of e-ink and what we've got going on right now. I think it's really important to have these conversations. Again, just had a few minutes, wanted to pop on, do a simple Q&A. Sorry about the technical difficulties on the last stream. Hopefully that's not going to happen again for us. But let me know. I'm seeing that my microphone volume looks like it's okay on my end, and we'll go ahead and get started. So one of the biggest things that happened this week, and I'll probably just go ahead and delete the other live stream, but is this whole idea of the Mont Blanc. And Mont Blanc, for those of you not familiar, has had a premier pen line for a long time, and their pens range anywhere from $300. Yeah, and thanks, Aaron. Thanks for coming back. Appreciate that. Hopefully, it stays us having sound. But with Mont Blanc, and this is why it's interesting. So for years, and I joked with Aaron in the Discord earlier tonight that, and thanks, David. Appreciate that as well. You popping back in. I was joking with Aaron, and I said the only reason I even know Mont Blanc exists is because it's something I'll never be able to afford. And I kind of said that tongue-in-cheek because nothing against anyone who can afford a device like that or the premium stationery or premium pens. But when you look at just some of the pricing, anywhere from $300 up to, I think one of them, and correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, but was approaching $5,000 for a pen. And for me, that just seems crazy. I mean, I can't imagine myself ever paying for something like that. But again, I'm not in that space, and I think someone who is, and David, I think you raised a really good point, and I was going to get to that. I think there are some pretty cool things on this device. But for $1,105, that's a lot of money, and that stylus of on itself is, I think, $275. And Aaron, you're right; some of them are over $5K. And so I think what was interesting to me, and what I was kind of saying before we lost sound earlier, was the idea that you have usually in the e-ink space, and this is what's kind of cool in a way about someone like Mont Blanc coming in. It's almost like when Amazon came in with the Kindle Scribe, I mean, at a much different level, but just the idea that someone who's a known brand, who's been around for a long time, who is recognized in the stationery or the book or the e-reading space, coming into this as a disruptor is in some ways good, because Mont Blanc is obviously paying e-ink for this technology. So we may see, hopefully, this coming into kind of I don't know, maybe getting the market stabilized a little bit in the idea of starting to purchase more and more things. But what I was saying earlier about Mont Blanc specifically is that usually what happens when you have a new product launch are one of two things, and sometimes a combination of both. You have someone who does a full-on marketing campaign where they pay for a lot of sponsored videos about their product. That happened very much with the ViWoods, and I still see a bunch of sponsored content out there for their product. Remarkable has done that. But they also tend to get these devices into the hands of reviewers already in the space. Now, it's not always the same reviewers. Sometimes it's different people. You'll notice, at least for the Remarkable Move, which I thought was an interesting device. I'm not sold on it for the price, but you had people like Voya, Kit, Brandon, all got the Move right away, but people like Khalid and some others didn't. So, it's one of those things where I think they're very strategic about who they send the devices to. Of course, a sponsored video, which means you're paid and given a script and you're told that you have to include A, B, C, and D, is totally different than receiving a device from a manufacturer. For example, ViWoods, BOOX, Supernote, they've all given me devices to review and to talk about and to use and provide feedback on. I'm in all of their beta communities. So it's a little bit different of a relationship if you are given a device in that context versus given a device and asked to say specific things. iFly Tech AI Note 2 is another example. I know Jeff Moss mentioned this on a recent video that he was approached by the company and they wanted him to say specific things. They did the same thing with me. So I think the idea is, and I turned them down. I don't do that. I will be happy to review a device, give my honest feedback, and also give you feedback even behind the scenes in the beta groups. I'm very active that way. But what I won't do is regurgitate your talking points. That's not my style of doing things. I'm not really big enough, I don't think, to influence that many people. I mean, we're growing, but I just don't see it as being conducive. I don't see it as being something that, since I'm in that space using those devices for specific needs, for me to do a sponsored video on something like that would be disingenuous. That's just my take on it. Aaron says, I think Mont Blanc, similar to the Kindle Scribe, they don't really need to get the device in a lot of creators' hands because of the strength of the brand. I think you're right, Aaron. And I also think they have a certain modicum of control. You know, I mean, they are very much a known brand, and I think that they want to control the messaging. Remarkable is getting bigger, but then again, it's not always about brand recognition. I mean, if you look at Apple and you look at Samsung, they're sending out devices nonstop to other influencers and YouTubers. And, you know, sometimes it's a little misleading when you see someone like MKBHD. It says his video is sponsored, but usually the sponsor is someone like Ridge, someone like, D-Brand, one of those sponsors he's worked with for a long time, and they sponsor his content, but Apple doesn't necessarily respond, or as far as I know, doesn't sponsor his review content of the iPhone. Now, I could be wrong about that, but that's my understanding of the way that works. So sometimes you're going to see that pop up on a sponsored video, but the sponsor may not be the product that they're actually talking about. It may be a product placement of something else. Cam Shand is another good example. He does do some sponsored content on devices, but a lot of his content's also sponsored by PCBWay and some other creator tools and web-based services who then just tell him, create a video and we will sponsor you to create a video about whatever your topic is. And I think there's a distinction there. And I hope we don't fall into the trap of thinking that it's a one-size-fits-all. But again, I think that's why this is such an interesting time for e-ink, for what's going on. You have this rapid pace of rollout of updates for the ViWoods. You have Supernote rolling out rapid updates. You have Mont Blanc now on the scene. It's rumored we may get a color Kindle Scribe. And there's just a lot of things happening. And then, of course, you have things that aren't really e-paper, but things like the Nextpaper. And it's just a really cool time to be around. And, of course, earlier today, I dropped my content on the Alluratech Spectra 6 13.3 e-paper photo frame, which is very much first impressions, very much unboxing and going through that. And I got to do that with my son. It was a lot of fun. But, what does that mean? The fact that Spectra 6 appears to be on the market, and on the market in a real purposeful way. Is it expensive? Yes, it's $359. But there's also a Kickstarter out there, and I can't remember the name of the company right now, that's already been funded, who's doing another version of this. Plus you have Reflection Frame, plus you have Blooming 8 that's coming out, plus you have Ink Poster. So you're starting to see Spectra 6 really come out in a very meaningful and substantive way. And so it'll be really interesting to see where that goes. I don't think it's going to be ready for years to be on a device like Gallery 3 is, but I do think that its time may have come for digital art, digital photos, and a lot of the other things happening. Well, fire away in the chat. Let me know what's on your mind. What are some of the things that you've seen over the last couple of weeks? What are some of the things you found really interesting? Is there something that maybe I haven't seen that you might find cool? Just to let you know a few of the things that are coming up on the channel while I'm waiting for that. I've talked about and I unboxed the TRMNL, and so I have this right here, and it's proving to be a really interesting device. I'm enjoying it a lot, and I'm getting the color version sometime next week. I'm pretty sure that Kit showed on his live stream. So I think it'll be interesting to talk about that when I get it and compare that Spectra panel to the panel that is in the 13.3-inch Allura, and really just be really interested in that. David says he's still waiting for a BOOX 8-inch device. Yeah, David, I don't know what BOOX is doing in regards to that. I'll tell you one thing, I'm loving the Note Max. I'm getting ready to have an influx of a whole bunch of papers in the next few weeks. So I'll have about 33-page papers, and I'm going to run the Note Max through its paces on that. And I do think that there are, sorry, I'm just looking out the window there. I do think that they're definitely missing that 8-inch space. And then you have like the Remarkable Pro Move that comes out, and I don't know kind of what's going on there. Supernote's really monopolizing that space right now, and I think that the biggest thing that's going to happen there is, are they going to go back to Wacom or to EMR in some form, whether that's through XP Pen or anybody else? And I don't know that they are. It seems like there's this very strict divide between the tablets right now. At least that's my understanding. Aaron, you mentioned they released something around that size in China. Are you talking about the X5? I saw that pop up in my feed earlier, and I'm just wondering if that's the device that maybe you're talking about. Don't know much about it. I do think that BOOX is missing out on not having an 8-inch device. I think the Go Color 7, they put a lot of kind of weight behind, and it didn't pay off because of that active stylus that wasn't as good as the one on the Tab XC, but wasn't, and also that form factor. I just don't know what's going to happen there. And Aaron says non-EMR, but that might be the reason they have a new USI pin pop up. Yeah, it very much could be. David said every other size of book suffering with too thick. Oh, the too thick BOOX Tab C. So is that the larger device, David? Just let me know. Like I said, I really love the Note Max, which is the same size as the Tab XC, but I like it for what it's really good at, which is large PDFs, large files, grading papers, those kinds of things that I do on a regular basis. I actually prefer, Tab Mini XC, Tab Mini C, there we go. All right, thank you. Yeah, so I think that, when we start looking at this and we start looking at what the market's doing, I think BOOX is missing out some here. Whether it's this move to active styli, whether it's maybe wanting to wait. Well, both wanting to wait and not wanting to wait to get a panel to do what they want to do. So they could refresh the internals on the Tab XC, or not Tab XC, the Tab Mini C, and release a new color device. Or they could kind of release a new Mini of some kind that's black and white, like a Mini Go 10.3. So maybe make it a Go 8 or something like that. And they could use these older panels, because you got to remember that even though the AI Paper Mini and the Nomad are older generation Carta screens, I think they're Carta 1000, that's 300 ppi. So I don't understand why they would think they would need to go to a Carta 1300 at that size in order to achieve basically the same result. And I don't know why they're moving away from panels that may already exist and that could be cheaper, and going for the USI just so they don't have to pay the EMR licensing. I don't get it. David says a Mini Go would be perfect. Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, you're right. I think that, to me, the Remarkable Move just isn't as functional as I thought it should be at that size. Actually, it's the price more than anything. The size, if what you're using it for is a jot pad, it's pretty cool. The problem is it comes through small on your larger devices. It scales correctly, but just on that smaller format. And everything I've seen about it, it seems like it's overkill for that form factor. I think they could have gone with a Remarkable 2 style device, the black and white, in that file format, or in that form factor, and priced it competitively and cleaned up. I really do. I think you're going to get a lot of people that buy it as a companion device. I think it's also a fashion statement in a lot of ways. It's one of those things that it's beautiful. It looks really good, but how functional is it? And I'm always going for, I'll take function all day long over form if I need to. If I was going to be in the small device category, that's why the Nomad is so intriguing for me, is just because it does it does everything the Big Brother does, and the compatibility is pretty good. Yeah, and Aaron, you raise a great point. At that size, the Move needs to be a better reader. And, Remarkable is kind of all in on, they really don't do that. I don't understand that reluctance, quite frankly. I get that they don't want to have third-party apps, so I get that they won't have Kindle. But there needs to be an easier way for them to be able to make it so that you can read. Maybe developing their own app that has DRM, even something like that. If they had their own app that had digital rights management, at least then it would be easier to pull your books from other providers onto that device. And Aaron says the Move is no more portable than the Nomad or Mini. Both are better options than the Move. Personally, I agree. I think that I agree in a way. I think that the Move would be more portable, and I always think back to my retail days when I think about something the size of the Move and being in that narrower format, because being able to hold it in one hand, but the problem with it is it's still made of glass and metal, except for the back cover. So it's not 100% robust enough to be in an environment like a retail environment if you're on the floor. Now, depending on what you do in retail, if you're in the corporate office, if you're same with all kinds of different occupations, then it may be portable in a really good way, but not more so than the Nomad. Now, the Nomad does have a glass screen, but it also has that very much plastic body, which gives it some of that more durable nature. And then with the Tab Mini C, same thing. And those covers are very good. Now, the Tab Mini C is all metal and glass, I believe, too. Uh, but it wouldn't be as portable to take around, say, on the floor in a retail environment. So again, a lot of it depends on what you're doing, and I think that's really important to think through on whether or not it would work for you. But a lot of times, and actually David over at Tablet Tech probably has the best use case that I've seen for the Move, as far as how he uses it and what he does with it. And, I don't know the full nature of his work, but I know he tours a lot of warehouses, he takes a lot of notes, and he works really kind of on process and procedures from what we've talked about. But to me, that's a different use case, and it would be really cool to get his perspective sometime on. For me, I was frontline management, so I was store management. And in those cases, when I'm up on rafters or up on, forklifts or, all these different places or crawling around back rooms, I need something that's just as durable as it is small. And so for me, that was always the question. Is it durable enough for that? And part of me, and this is going to sound a little snarky, but part of me thinks it's just too pretty for that. And so I think that Remarkable's kind of, their target demographic, I think, is corporations, people who already have a Remarkable device, people who may be artists and want to just sketch something down really quickly, people who may be in a lot of short meetings, and Kit has mentioned moving from classroom to classroom and the portability factor there. So there's a lot of different components there. But what else, folks? What do you got? I'm going to have to hop off of here in just a minute, but I'm really curious what else you've seen that's kind of piqued your interest over this last week, because there's been a lot of news coming out. Let's see here. For my use case with the AI Paper Mini, I could use the Move. I walk around a hangar taking notes for aircraft maintenance, but I also use the AI Paper as my planner. Yeah, and I think that, I think again, it depends what you want to be able to do on device, right, Aaron? And so I'm working on finalizing the next two modules in my Introduction to Organization and Second Brain Systems course, which, by the way, if you sign up over on Patreon in the supporter tier, you get that course for free, or you can purchase it. But what I'm doing is I'm thinking through kind of, is it now possible to do a full second brain on the Supernote all on device? Now, and you and I, Aaron, have talked, excuse me, you and I, Aaron, have talked about this quite a bit, that I use Obsidian for a lot of that, but could I now do that all on the Supernote? I think the answer to that is yes, depending on how complex the second brain system is. And the reason I say that is because there's so many more things you can tie in so much more easily on using Obsidian than you can on that. And just to follow up on that, Aaron says, but the Move is just too high for just notes. Yeah, I agree. I think that they missed the mark on pricing. And I think Voya made that point crystal clear today on the video he released. David says BOOX is the only brand that has extensive ecosystem of different sizes and great capabilities. I would say they have the most sizes, for sure, David. And I think, their ecosystem still has some work to be done, only because they don't have a truly full-fledged app. The fact that not all of your files, your readings, anything that's in your library, none of that, you can see it on their app, but you can't access it. So to me, I think their ecosystem is evolving, and I think they're making really good positive steps. I think Remarkable has the premier app experience. I think Supernote is a close second. And then I think you get to ViWoods and BOOX. I'd say BOOX first, then ViWoods, lagging way behind when it comes to the whole ecosystem approach. Now, for notes, I think BOOX does an extremely good job. for that. And I think that they do a good job with that sync. But I also don't think Supernote does bad. I think their sync is just a little bit less because it can create those conflict files. But I think they do that for a reason, and I think it's pretty logical why. It's so you don't lose data or overwrite something if you're using multiple devices. But I think that that's interesting. And I think whatever BOOX does in the future will be really cool to watch. And we got a lot of chat, so hold on. Let's see here. The digest, I think, will let you do that on Supernote to a point, Aaron. And I think that, again, the digest is another piece to the puzzle. But what it doesn't do is they're just different. It's easier, it's faster, and it's more efficient to do some things in Obsidian. And I think that's what I'm looking at in can this be my full second brain replacement? Yeah, you're right, Aaron. It is great for sync between devices. The scaling is better and it's fast. Now, I don't know that I would agree that the scaling's better from the two different or the other devices, because if you've watched the BOOX when it scales up or scales down, scaling down is much better. So if you go from the Note Max down to the 10.3, it looks really good. If you go up, though, it looks much bigger. So it scales up, and I think that is a little bit of an issue. David says Supernote does not have a 13-inch. No, they don't, and I think that's something that they're going to have to work on. And I've got to hop off, folks, but this is an agree to disagree, David, as far as the reading app. I don't think it's near as robust as the Neo Reader, but I don't think that it has a lot that I would have that needs to be desired. It has all the functionality I need, and I think that's, for me, and I think for you, it's really important to get that sense of what you need it to do. It's not the number of functions, it's what do you need those functions to be. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much. Have a great night. Appreciate you joining me for this. Sorry about the first one that went off the rails with the bad technology issues, but have a great night, and we will talk to y'all later. Keep on moving forward now. Bye.